welcome future Panther parents. This is a time for you to hear from North Central High School counselors about everything regarding scheduling and looking ahead to freshman year for your students. So we are excited to have you. My name is Melissa Patchett, and I am the Director of Counseling for North Central. With me today, I have three of our wonderful counselors, school counselors, and that is Miss Kim and Miss Girton and Miss Gates. Additionally, this afternoon, we also have our coordinator of school counseling, Jen Dodson, with us. So we are excited to have you. I know there's a lot of people still joining, and so we're excited to see that. And I am going to hand it off to Miss Kim to start the presentation.
Good afternoon, everybody. So we just have a quick presentation to go through with you all of Q&As that we get a lot, frequently asked questions. This presentation was originally given to all of our current 8th graders at all of the 3 middle schools that feed into North Central. So if you see some of the wording is geared towards students, that's why. And then we'll open up at the end and allow you guys time to ask questions. And brace with me as I get used to this sharing my screen. But we just want to emphasize the importance of adjusting to high school and the challenges that can bring to students. We just shared this with students just to make them aware that the workload does increase when you get to high school. We have 7 classes every day at North Central, so that means that you meet with your teachers every day, and so sometimes that brings more work than in middle school when you have a block schedule, or if you have a block schedule. The course difficulty increases, of course, as well. So the classes become more challenging. There may be more homework than students are used to. So it's really important that students stay on top of their assignments, study for tests. That might be something that's new to some of them, like actually spending time reviewing material. And then, of course, asking questions as needed of their teachers, and of course, where to help too. And then, of course, the responsibility when you adjust to high school. There's more independence, which can be a really good thing for students, but that also brings more responsibility. So like I mentioned before, it's just really important that students have a way that works for them as far as keeping track of assignments, and then just staying on top of their work, especially if they happen to be absent. That would just be something on them to ask their teachers when they get back to school about what they missed and how to get caught up. With those challenges, though, we do have a lot of support at North Central. So one thing that we've been trying to make sure all of our students are aware of is we have student support hours. So there are 2 forms of this. We have what's called the Learning Center, which is open all day during the day for students. So if they want to go down to the Learning Center and receive extra tutoring in their classes, they can do that. They would just need to get a pass from their core class teacher. And the best time to go to the Learning Center would be if they have a study hall built into their schedule, which is just something they would have to request when we're picking out courses. So if they want to be able to go to the Learning Center during the day, they just need that pass from a core class teacher and ideally a study hall. The Learning Center is also open after school, though, daily, Monday through Thursday, so students can go there. There are tutors there, people willing to help and give extra support, so they can go for any of their classes that they might need help in those days during the week. If they want specific help from their teacher, all teachers at North Central stay after 1 day a week for student support hours. Their days are either going to be weekly on Wednesday or weekly on Thursday. So students can ask their teachers which days they stay after, and then kind of make a schedule that works best for them. If they need help with a class that meets on Wednesdays after, they could go to that help session with that teacher, and then the same is true for Thursday. And then we also have our library, which is currently going under renovations, but there's still a library that we have open in one of our previous gyms. So that's open for students during the day to be able to go get help with research if they have any papers that they're writing, etc. So they can always go there as well. And then we wanted to mention that, of course, they have a school counselor that will be assigned to them. Right now, counselor assignments for next year are still being determined, and decisions are going to be available to families as soon as possible. So just be on the lookout for that. I'm sure communication will be sent out through Parent Square, and we'll just share that out with you all. Once a student is at North Central, they can request meetings with their counselors anytime. We have online request forms throughout the building, and students can request a meeting, and those notifications go directly to their counselor, and their counselor can call them down if they need them. And additionally, we told students about this just to make them aware that in middle school, they don't really earn credits unless they're taking high school level classes. But of course, in high school, every class that you take, you can earn a credit. So they would earn a credit for every class passed each semester. And if they do not pass the class, then they will not earn the credit and may need to retake the class, depending on if it's a required class or credit for graduation. And then we also wanted to make students aware that they do not earn a credit for study hall. Now I'm going to pass it along to Ms. Girton.
Good afternoon. So we explained to students that the student day starts at 8:35 and ends at 3:25. They're going to have every class every day. On Tuesdays, the schedule's a little bit different in that they do have a homeroom period that falls right in between third and fourth period. However, they're still going to have all of their classes. They're just a little bit shorter to accommodate for that homeroom time. On the first day of school, students will start off in their homeroom and they will get a copy of their finalized schedule, which will look kind of like what's on the screen. If you look at the very bottom, there is what appears to be an 11th period, and that is just letting them know their homeroom assignment. We do not have 11 periods in the day, so that's just where Skyward puts it, so we don't want that to confuse the students. We do, however, have 10 periods, so you'll see periods 1 through 10 listed there. And you're wondering, how do we get 10 periods out of 7 classes? So let me explain that a little bit. The periods in the middle of the day, periods 4 through 8, are lunch periods. So they are short. They are 25 minutes long. So if we look at this student, for example, they have Algebra 1, period 4. That is only 24 minutes. So they need to have Algebra 1, period 5 as well in order to get them a full class period. And then this student happens to have a split lunch. So they are going to start off in biology, period 6. And then that teacher is going to release them to lunch. And then they're going to go back to biology for 8th period to finish up the other half of class. So all students will have 2 classes listed twice and a lunch period in those middle 5 periods. That is very confusing. Those first couple of days, students come in or parents even say, hey, you gave my student 2 algebra classes or 2 biology classes. So hopefully this will help explain that a little better. Another thing that we talked to students about when we visited were electives. There are lots of choices for freshmen. Every year, those choices are going to increase. But what we wanted to encourage them to do is take elective time to explore their interests. It's a chance to try things out. So for example, if you have a student who is maybe interested in going into business, take Introduction to Business. It'll give kind of an overview of all the different things that you'll do in that field. You'll get some marketing, some accounting, management, and it just gives them a sense of what that field includes. And it's just as important for them to find out, you know what, I don't really like this, as it is, you know, hey, yes, this is the perfect fit for me, because these are chances to try things out and they're free. Whereas if you're going to college as a business major and find out, hey, I don't really like business, you're paying for those classes. So we encourage them to kind of take elective opportunities to try, you know, explore interests. And we also encourage them not to pick electives based on what their friends are doing. This is a very big school. We have lots of different electives and lots of sections of each class. So if my best friend and I want to take Intro to Art together, the odds that we end up in the same section of art, you know, are slim. So we want to make sure they're making choices, you know, based on their interests. Party policy. Another thing we stress with students is the importance, of being at school every day. Daily attendance is very important. It's important to be in class, hearing the instruction. There are things posted on Canvas and supplemental things that teachers provide, but nothing can replace hearing the instruction that's given in the classroom, hearing other students ask questions and what those answers are and all of those things. So it's very important for them to be at school every day. We also explain that they need to be in class on time. We have 6-minute passing periods, which is plenty of time to get from one side to the other. If they are in a JEL class, they do get an extra minute or two. So we accommodate that. The first week of school, obviously students are learning their way. So teachers are very flexible and will, make exceptions and allow them into class. But once we get settled in, they need to be in class on time. We used to have a tardy room where students had to go if they didn't make it to class on time and they could not attend class. We no longer have that. However, teachers are going to be tracking all tardies, and there are consequences when those tardies accumulate. So they'll have after-school detention or sometimes even Saturday school if they acquire too many tardies. So just the simple rule is be here and be in class on time. Ms. Gates, I think we'll be handling the next slide.
Thank you, Ms. Gurdon. As far as lockers, there's always been a myth about North Central and the lockers. A lot of students think that they will be put in lockers as a joke. I'm here to tell you that is not true. It's not true at all. And as far as lockers, a lot of our students don't utilize their lockers. But if your child decides that they want a locker, they're not automatically assigned anymore. The students may reach out to their counselor to be assigned to a locker. Athletics. Guess what? We now have a new football coach, and we're looking to go 8-0 or 11-0 or whatever our schedule looks like. So I talked to the middle school fresh 8th graders, and so they're on board with coming in and helping us to become 8-0 or 11-0 this year. So the football coach, if you want to contact any of the coaches that for any of the sports that are listed, please contact the athletic directors or make sure your child signs up for conditioning. If it's a summer sport like football, soccer, tennis, cross country, girls golf, or etc., then they have conditioning in the summer. So have the students reach out to the various coaches, and they are listed online. If they're not, please contact the athletic department. And of course, you see the winter sports and the spring sports listed, but for each sporting event, we do have conditioning prior to the season starting. Ways to get involved at North Central. Of course, North Central has a lot to offer. If you want to stay up to date, please follow NCHS Live on Instagram. Encourage your students to try a club or extracurricular activity. If they don't see a club listed, they can start a club on their own. They just have to get a teacher to sponsor it. And of course, all the clubs are listed on their website. And we have announcements around the building. So if a student wants to be involved in something, we hang up signs around the building. So a lot of students don't read them, but they make announcement on the daily announcements. Panther Quest, another way for students to see the building, to walk around the building, to get to know where different things are located in the building. It's the freshman orientation. It's open to all rising 9th grade students, and it's led by the North Central students and staff. If on here, one of these dates don't work for you, you can always sign up for another date. And there will be buses if they need transportation that will pick up students at the elementary school. So if one of these dates do not work for you, you're on vacation or whatever, then you have the opportunity to sign up for another date. Summer school. Summer school sign up is from June the 2nd through the 23rd. There's no school on the 19th. The students have a maximum of 2 classes to choose from: online health, online PE. And a lot of students ask, do you have online swimming? No, we don't. You can't swim online unless you watch it. And the other classes, prep for college and careers. Registration will start on April the 7th. So have your student get in touch with the counselors, or if you're a student outside of Washington Township, then you can go online and register yourself. Now we're opening up for questions.
For the question time, you can feel free to put your questions in the chat or come off mute if you would like.
Hi, my name's Karen. I have a question about some of the newer, I think they're newer high school graduation classes like speech and the computer science and personal finance. I'm hoping for some clarification about like whether those are very specific classes they have to take or whether there are different kinds of classes that would meet those requirements, and also whether there are any plans to offer any of them in summer school, if not this year, down the road.
Yeah, those are really great questions. So, and it's kind of a both and. So a lot of this information is yet to be defined by the state. For example, the state is requiring a communications course, which is where the speech comes into play, but they also intend to like roll out a whole list of classes that can fulfill that communications course. So speech can fulfill it, but so can other classes, but they have not released that full list of courses yet.
Is
So
there
that's an
any
example.
timeline on those? Like my daughter is hoping to do IB, so she really is only going to have freshman and sophomore year to meet those requirements.
Yeah, they
Um,
will have it out by the start of the school year, but we're all also anticipating this list. So we are hoping soon, like the most recent update I have heard is in the coming weeks. So we are hoping soon. We will have that information. We do know that speech will count, but we also are just waiting to see if there will be more classes. And I anticipate there will be more classes to fulfill that communications class. Same thing, the computer science class, it will have multiple options that can fulfill that computer science credit, but we are waiting to see what that full list will be. So we just have a placeholder in our 4-year plan, our sample 4-year plan, to say they'll need a computer science credit, they'll need a communications credit. We don't know exactly what classes will meet those requirements yet, but we know that they need them. The only one that is very specific is that personal finance class. That is actually a specific class they do have to take. It is, there's not a list of other classes that will fulfill that. That is the class they have to take for personal finance. And then your other question, sorry, there was multiple layers there, I think, was about summer school. So I don't, right now for 8th graders, the only options will be like the PE and the health. And then I believe preparing for college and careers if they did not take that in 8th grade. But down the road, we do hope to expand that to help meet some of these requirements. We just don't have a plan quite yet.
One of the
thanks.
questions in the chat said, does taking a sport take the place of PE? Yes, it does. So if you play a sport, then you don't have to have PE.
Correct.
In terms of summer school, it is something that students can work on their own timeline. However, usually at the start of summer school, the teachers will offer a few different times that they want to meet synchronously with the students, just to share information about the layout of the course expectations. And then after that, the courses are posted on Canvas so students can work at their own pace. And the next question was also about summer school. Those are the only classes that are going to be offered for our current 8th graders, like Ms. Patchett just said. We don't allow students to get ahead in 8th grade for summer school, but that could be a conversation for their summer going into 10th grade, potentially, depending on the students' classes and what they might need for graduation.
The next question about whether we would advise freshmen taking a study hall, especially if they're in the honors track. I think, yes, we definitely do recommend that freshmen take a study hall. I think it's great to have that time built into the day to get organized, to study, to prepare for tests, just kind of adjust to all the changes that they're going to kind of be going through as they move into high school. I think when we talk with students, their feedback is that it was very helpful to have that. So we would recommend that.
Someone talked about swimming is a requirement. That is if you take PE during the school year. Because PE is taken online. So swimming would not be a requirement if it's taken online. I know, and I keep getting the PE questions.
And then there's a question about the new diploma requirements and where you can get information about that. So I'm going to put a link in the chat to the DOE document that spells out the requirements for the diplomas. And then we also have a 4-year plan template that we are happy to share as well. It outlines the 4-year plan for the honors enrollment honor seal. And then we also are working to update our course catalog, the digital one specifically, to reflect the new diploma requirements. But right now the best place is this link directly to the IDOE diploma requirements for the class of 2029. Any other questions? We'll also try to review the chat here really quick too, but if anybody wants to come off mute and ask theirs, feel free.
I can answer one of the questions I'm seeing in the chat regarding the course called Preparing for College and Careers. There's a question asking if that is a required course, and that is a required course for students who are currently in 8th grade. So if your student has not taken PCC or Preparing for College or Careers or AVID, we are able to count AVID for PCC credit because the academic standards in those courses are aligned. If they haven't taken those courses, they will need to take Preparing for College and Careers. If not this summer, they would then need to take it during the school year at North Central at some point, and that is a 1-semester course.
Thank you for holding, ma'am. So I did reach into this to a supervisor, and they have not heard any information about Horizon Blue Cross sending out cards for members to buy groceries with.
There's a question about retaking classes. So if students take classes in middle school for high school credit and grade and do not like the grade or wish to retake it, there's kind of 2 avenues. So families have until the end of the first semester of freshman year to request to remove a class from the transcript. However, if it is required for graduation, they will need to retake it. And then if for some reason you miss the window to remove a class or decide down the road that you would like to retake a class, we at the high school have a standard policy that any grade that's below a C-, you can retake that class.
Melissa, can I ask just a clarifying question on that, what you just said?
Sure.
So any grade below a C-, they can. What if it is, say, a B, but it's like, a 4.0 student and they don't want that B and want to redo that credit?
So the option there would be to have it removed after the first semester.
Okay, so they can,
year.
Okay, got it. They can still do that regardless of the grade.
Yes, so that's
Okay.
regardless. Yeah, anybody can request to have a middle school class taken off the transcript up until the end of the first semester of freshman year. But if it is required to graduate, they have to retake it. If it's not required to graduate and they just don't want it on the transcript, then it just comes off.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
There's a question about whether foreign language is a requirement. Technically, it is not required for the new diploma. However, we recommend that students take at least 2 years of a language just to keep options open, because a lot of colleges require you to have 2 years for admission. We want to make sure that they have everything they need in case, college is in their future.
And then just to add on to that, so we at North Central are requiring all students to start off on an honors seal. We know that the majority of our students go on to a 4-year or 2-year college. That statistically, we have 75% of our graduates go on to a 4 or 2-year college. So we are recommending, while they can pick from any of the 3 honors seal, we are recommending the enrollment honors seal, which has students be on track for college admissions, as Ms. Gerton mentioned. And so for the enrollment honor seal, world language is required, and it is 4 world language credits of the same language. So again, it's that college admission standard that Ms. Gerton mentioned. And so we do want to make sure that our students are meeting that. Like I said, we intend for all of our students to pursue an honors seal diploma, whether it's the enrollment, enlistment, or employment, and know that the majority of our students will pursue the enrollment seal because the majority of our students do go on to a 4 or 2-year college.
Someone asked the question, how many teachers are in the Student Support Center? If you mean the Learning Center, we have a lot of retired teachers up in the Learning Center, so we don't know how many teachers are up there at one time. The teachers themselves have student support hours. So the teachers set the hours. It may be in the morning or it can also be after school. But the teachers are not up in the Learning Center. Those are primarily retired teachers that are up there, or people that come in to give their time to assist with studying or tutoring. How many students does each counselor have? It varies. It could be 250, 260 per counselor, but it varies.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. The other question was about summer school. Can register students that are currently in Washington Township, can we register online for summer school instead of going through a counselor? Yes, you can, because you will receive the link. And we, the counselors at North Central, will be okay in those classes, or the middle school counselors authorizing the students to take the classes. I'm asking, Tara, can you answer that?
Middle school counselors do not
sorry.
approve those
Okay.
classes for high school. The high school counselors do.
Counselors will be approving
Yep.
Classes. Once you sign up online, we will be the ones that'll be approving them. But if the student need help, the counselors at the middle school will assist them in signing up and register
Yes.
for.
There's a lot of questions in the chat about IB. And so for those, I would just really direct you to Mr. Hodson, who is our IB coordinator. It is just a very specific diploma track that he is your best resource. We do have some information in the course catalog that I know Jen Dodson linked into the chat, so you can see kind of a tentative what you would take for the IB diploma laid out, but he is your best resource for answering all your IB questions. And I can put his email address in the chat as well.
I saw a question, and I see a hand up too from Sarah Hudson, and this was her question, and maybe she has another one. Can a student take film/ethnic lit instead of English 11? So in the course catalog, it shows you the options increase a lot as students go through high school as far as English options, and yes, juniors can take either English 11, ethnic literature, or film literature, or they can take AP literature. So those are all options for juniors. And I don't know if you still have a question.
Hi, yes, I do. Thank you for answering that question. I have a couple here. If you don't mind me just kind of firing away. Yeah, it's not, the course catalog is really helpful, but right, that answer on the English 11 question was not clear. And then sometimes it's not clear if the class is a 1 semester or a 2 semester class. I don't know, as you guys are revising, that would be helpful. One specific question I have related to that is trig and pre-calc each of those a semester, or each of those their own full year-long class?
Yeah, great question. So those are each one semester, but they usually go together. So students will
Okay.
take pre-calc in the fall and then trig in the spring. That's our only like one semester math course offerings right now, which may change with the new requirements and everything. But and then a good way, I'm looking at the catalog too, I could see the confusion. I think the best way to tell if it's a one semester or two semester is if it says F or S, that means they can take it in the fall or the spring, meaning it's one semester. But if it says F-S, that means it's a full year. So that may help a little bit.
Is helpful. And that explanation that you just gave would be great to include in the course catalog, because that was another question I had. And then my student is, he would like to take a study hall every semester. Is that for like all 4 years? Is that excessive? He's going to take a lot of honors classes. So I don't know. I see head shaking. So it sounds like if you're taking honors, X classes, AP classes, it's okay to take that study hall.
Definitely. I
Okay.
would say like students know themselves best. So I have some students I meet with who don't use their study hall and they're like, I'd rather just do it at home or do it another time. But if your student is wanting that and thinks it'll be useful time during the day, especially if they're involved in high level classes, different things after school, or just adjusting to high school that first year. But I hear you saying he wants to do it throughout high school. That's absolutely fine. And it would be good for him if that's a time of day that he knows he can get things done, then no, yeah, I definitely think it's kind of case by case, but it's not excessive at all.
Okay, one last question for me. Thank you. So next steps are, I know they've been working, my son's been working with Mrs. Mitchell to lay out his schedule. So then he meets with someone. I'm not sure if it's Mrs. Mitchell at middle school or if it's the high school counselor. And then he like hits submit on his schedule. And then yet later at another step, he has to register and get approval for the summer class. And then I assume like this plan for all 4 years, he can adjust at any time. Like we don't know if it's going to be AP calculus or finite math, right? His senior year. I assume like every year he gets a chance to adjust that as he goes along.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. So we anticipate changes in the 4-year plan. And so that's part of that scheduling appointment in the high school. When you meet with your counselor, is kind of looking at what have you taken, what have you completed, what do you still need to complete to graduate, mapping that out. So it's an ongoing, constant, constantly under review and open to change based off of your students' areas of interest and needs and post-secondary plans. And then of course, based on the graduation requirements. So making sure they meet that as well. So it's a constant change. The summer school registration is just a separate registration from like next year courses. So that's why it's a separate process. And we'll have more information on summer school registration after spring break.
There are some questions about summer school and how many classes a student can take and kind of what the time commitment is. Students can take 2 classes online. Typically what they'll have is kind of an entry-level Zoom where everyone gets online at the same time, and then it's asynchronous work. So they can work independently and kind of even work ahead if they want to. The time commitment, it's a fair amount of time. They need to have time to be able to set aside, but it's not not hours and hours every day, if that helps. But it will be via Canvas.
There's a question about schedule change requests after the school year starts. So we do have a 10-day drop add window where you can make schedule changes And you'll just reach out to your student's counselor to do that in that window. And then after that 10th day, schedules are locked in.
There's a question about AP Computer Science. For next year in our course catalog, it's listed as being just for sophomores through seniors. And then Biomedical Science is an honors class. Also, there was a question about counselors, if they're meeting yearly, I think, with their students, or if they're able to check in yearly. We meet with our students at least annually to do their scheduling for the next year. They can sit down with us anytime before that or after that, but we meet with every student at least once a year to do their schedules. There was also a question about French. It says if your student has taken 2 years in middle school of French, do they have to continue in high school? The best answer to that is I would say reach out. We can have you reach out to Mr. Collins just to do a placement test to see what level of French we would consider putting them in high school. They'll get at least 1 credit for that, but potentially more depending on how they do on their placement test. And that'll also help us know what we should put them in high school. But I would say if they have already taken 2 language, I would definitely encourage them to keep taking it and just making sure that those 2 years go on their transcripts so they can get credit for that when they're applying to college.
I will just add on that, just from the middle school perspective, world language in the district, our approach to it has shifted a little bit. So a student who took a current 8th grader who took 2 years of French, that's really just 2 credits. It's 1 year of French. So if it's an in-district student, if you're coming from Eastwood, Northview, or West Lane, they would go into French 2 for next year or French 2X. I will say that has kind of been in flux. So currently we've shifted that model to it's not a 2-year course in middle school. It is back to a 1-year course, but we've kind of been in flux the last few years. So I just want to clarify, if your student is coming from a Washington Township middle school, then we wouldn't typically do a placement test. But if they're coming from another outside of the district school that has more rigorous language offerings, then that is definitely a really good solution and a good route to take.
I don't know if this was mentioned. I know somebody earlier asked about kind of the scheduling process. High school counselors are coming to the middle schools. We'll be at West Lane next Tuesday, and then the following week we'll be at Northview and Eastwood to meet with your student. We meet with 8th graders and go over the choices they've made with their counselor and kind of add in maybe things people are mentioning, like you can't add Study Hall and Skyward. We'll add in those things for them and kind of talk through their choices and answer their questions. So we will be seeing all of the students in the next 2 weeks.
All right, well, I think we have answered most, if not all, of the questions, unless there are any more to add. Looks like there's a couple more coming in now.
Hello, will we get a copy of this recording?
Yes, we will share out the recording of this.
Look for the recording to be sent out by 8th grade counselors. We'll have them send the link via Parent Square, and then we will also add it to the North Central website as well. So it will be both places. I wanted to also, while I'm off mute, highlight in that course catalog, which will be, the online version will be updated as we have updates, given just this unique year with diploma changes. But I wanted to highlight, there was a question about if something was counted for weighted credit. On page 10 in that course catalog is a pretty lengthy list of all the courses that are offered for weighted credit. So just another resource for you. And I think I mentioned in the chat too, or maybe we've said it as well, you can reference that online and your student should have a printed copy that they've brought home. And if they haven't brought it home, like some of our kids don't, you can ask them for it.
One of the questions asked about choosing alternates. We definitely would recommend that students choose alternates because sometimes classes do fill, and it's nice to know kind of what their backup plans are. Intro to Culinary, I will say, is one that is very popular because you get to eat and get to make fun things. So definitely want to have some alternate choices listed so that we know what else they'd be interested in if they can't get their first choice.
There was a question about parents attending the meeting with the North Central counselors when they come to your student's middle school. And I would just share that those are pretty brief meetings. We're really proud and grateful to be able to offer individual meetings with every student. Not all school districts do that. But it is a 10-minute meeting. And so what we've experienced is the 10 minutes is pretty full of the high school counselor trying to kind of learn about your student and help them determine what the best courses are for them for ninth grade. So we typically do not have parents join those. Every once in a while, we'll have a unique situation where we might offer that. But what I would encourage you to do is if you have specific questions, your go-to at this point is your student's 8th grade counselor. So this opportunity today is for parents to get an opportunity to ask questions of the high school counseling team. And then the high school counselors will meet one-on-one with every student. But going forward, if you have little questions, your go-to should be your 8th grade counselor. And if they're not, they have been through lots of trainings on this, but they may still not be able to answer every question. And they definitely have direct linkages to the North Central Counseling Department. So if they're not able to answer that question, they can get an answer for you. So that will be your go-to going forward until we announce who your student's ninth grade and high school counselor will be. And like we mentioned earlier, you'll get communication about that later this school year. But for the time being, 8th grade counselors your go-to.
There's a question about performing arts and kind of since auditions haven't happened yet, we just have a general term that they can type in. They can just type in dance, band, or orchestra. And then once auditions happen and students are placed, we'll make sure they're placed into the correct section.
As far as starting taking a world language, we do recommend that freshmen take that. It's just an elective that they have access to, and it also allows for them to potentially free up space their junior and senior years if there are other electives that are become open to those upperclassmen that they may want to take. So we definitely recommend it if you feel like your student is ready for that.
Can they take 2 electives or only 1? It really depends on the student and what other classes they are taking, and whether or not they're going to take a study hall. So it's really kind of dependent on the student for that question. All right, well, we appreciate everyone's time and spending a little bit of time with us to go over all that's coming for freshman year. And we acknowledge that there is still more to be determined. And so as we get more information, both about your high school counselor assignment and about graduation requirements and courses that fulfill the graduation requirements, we will be sure to share that with all of our families. And we just are looking forward to meeting your students in the coming weeks as we visit the middle schools and welcoming them to be a North Central Panther.